Alarmed expression is your income about to be slashed. Millions of UK benefit claimants are facing significant cuts to their universal credit and PIP payments, and if you're one of them, you need to know what's coming. According to recent Department for Work and Pensions announcements, 5 major changes could impact your financial stability in ways you haven't prepared for. These aren't minor adjustments, we're talking about fundamental reforms that could reduce your payments by hundreds of pounds every month. The worst part? Most people won't see it coming until it's too late. Before I dive into these critical changes, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss out on important benefit updates that could affect your financial security. Drop a comment below with your biggest concern about these changes, and I'll try to address it in my next video. And if you're worried about how these changes might affect someone you know, sharing this video could be the most important thing you do for them today. The benefits system in the UK has always been complex, but the latest round of reforms takes this complexity to a whole new level. Today, we're breaking down exactly what's changing, who's affected, and what you can do to prepare. Whether you're on universal credit, personal independence payment, or both, these changes will almost certainly impact your life in some way. Let me ask you this: do you know how much money you might lose each month once these changes take effect? The reality is shocking for many claimants. The first major change targets the Universal Credit Work Capability Assessment. The DWP is completely overhauling how they determine whether you're fit for work. Instead of focusing on what you can't do, the new system will emphasize what you can do, and this shift in perspective means thousands of people previously deemed unable to work may suddenly find themselves expected to look for jobs or face sanctions. This isn't just about terminology, it's about fundamentally changing who qualifies for additional support. Under the current system, if you have limited capability for work, you receive additional elements in your universal credit payment. The new approach will raise the threshold significantly, meaning conditions that previously qualified for support may no longer meet the criteria. Have you recently been assessed? Because your status might not be as secure as you think. Those with fluctuating conditions like fibromyalgia, ME, CFS, or mental health disorders may be particularly vulnerable under the new assessment framework. But what happens if you're genuinely unable to work due to health conditions? This is where the second change comes in. The DWP is introducing stricter medical evidence requirements for PIP claims. No longer will your GP's letter be enough in many cases. The department is bringing in more specialized assessors and requiring more detailed medical evidence, making the application process considerably more challenging. Have you gathered all your medical documentation? Because without comprehensive evidence, your claim might be rejected outright. The new evidence requirements mean you'll need detailed reports from specialists who have treated you, not just your general practitioner. For many conditions, this means consultant letters, occupational therapy assessments, and even specific functional evaluations. The catch? Many claimants face months-long waiting lists just to see these specialists on the NHS. Are you prepared to navigate this more complex process? Because the rejection rate for insufficient evidence is expected to rise dramatically. For those renewing their PIP, the bar will be higher than when you first applied, so don't assume your renewal will be straightforward. The third change affects universal credit housing payments. The DWP is adjusting how they calculate housing costs, with many claimants seeing reductions in their housing support. This is particularly concerning given the current housing crisis. Are you aware of exactly how much of your rent will be covered going forward? For many, especially in high-cost areas, this could mean facing difficult choices between paying rent and covering other essential expenses. The changes to housing payment calculations will introduce new regional caps that don't necessarily reflect the real rental market in your specific neighborhood. Additionally, shared accommodation rates will apply to more claimants than before. If you're in private rented accommodation, have you checked whether your current rent exceeds the new local housing allowance rates? Because if it does, you'll be expected to make up the difference yourself. For those in areas where rental costs have soared, this gap could be substantial, potentially hundreds of pounds each month that must come from your already stretched budget. Are you a parent receiving universal credit? Then the fourth change will directly impact your family. The two-child benefit cap is being reinforced with fewer exceptions. Previously, certain circumstances allowed for support beyond 2 children, but these exemptions are becoming increasingly rare. For larger families, this could mean a substantial reduction in total household income, potentially pushing more children into poverty. The reinforcement of the 2-child limit means families with more than 2 children born after April 2017 will continue to receive no additional standard allowance for those children. But what's changing is the interpretation of the exceptional circumstances that previously allowed some families to receive support for additional children. Have you been receiving support for a 3rd or 4th child under an exemption? Because these exemptions are being reviewed with stricter criteria. For example, the non-consensual conception exemption will require additional verification, and the multiple birth exemptions are being interpreted more narrowly. For some families, this could mean losing over £3,000 per year per child no longer covered. The 5th and final major change is perhaps the most significant for long-term claimants. The DWP is introducing enhanced benefit sanctions and compliance requirements. Missing an appointment, failing to update your journal, or not meeting job search requirements could result in immediate payment suspensions lasting longer than ever before. Do you fully understand what's expected of you under these new rules? Because the margin for error is becoming vanishingly small. The new sanctions regime increases both the duration and severity of penalties. Under previous rules, a first missed appointment might result in a week or 2 of reduced payments. Now, that same infraction could mean a month without any payment at all. The escalation system has also become more aggressive. 2nd and 3rd sanctions will lead to even longer payment suspensions. Have you ever been sanctioned before? Because repeat sanctions under the new system could leave you without support for up to 6 months. The compliance requirements are also changing, with job search expectations increasing from 20 to 30 hours per week for many claimants, regardless of caring responsibilities or health limitations. Let's consider the broader impact of these changes. The government argues these reforms are necessary to reduce welfare dependency and encourage more people into work. But critics point out that many affected by these cuts are already in vulnerable situations. Have you considered how you might need to adjust your budget in response to these changes? For many, this might mean cutting back on essentials like heating or food. Food banks across the country are already preparing for increased demand as these changes roll out. Community support organizations report that they are seeing more people seeking advice about benefit cuts than at any time since the initial universal credit rollout. The mental health impact shouldn't be underestimated either. The stress of financial insecurity can exacerbate existing health conditions, creating a vicious cycle for those with health-related claims. What's particularly concerning is the timing of these changes. With inflation still affecting everyday costs and energy prices remaining high, these benefit reductions couldn't come at a more challenging time for many households. Do you have a financial buffer to help you through this transition period? Because many families will find their safety net significantly weakened just as winter approaches, bringing higher heating costs and seasonal pressures. So what can you do to prepare for these changes? First, knowledge is power. Understanding exactly which changes will affect you is crucial. If you're currently receiving PIP, check when your next assessment is due and start gathering comprehensive medical evidence now, not when you receive the renewal paperwork. For universal credit claimants, review your commitments carefully and ensure you're meeting all requirements to avoid sanctions. Consider seeking advice from welfare rights organizations or citizens' advice bureaus before these changes affect you. They can help you understand your specific situation and may identify additional support you're entitled to. Have you explored all possible entitlements? Because many claimants are missing out on additional support they qualify for, which could help offset some of these cuts. If you're facing a reduction in housing support, start conversations with your landlord early. Some may be willing to renegotiate rent rather than risk losing a tenant entirely. For those with disabilities facing work capability reassessments, gathering evidence that specifically addresses your functional limitations in a work context will be essential. It's worth noting that these changes will disproportionately impact certain groups. Single parents, especially those with more than 2 children, will be particularly hard hit by the combined effect of the 2-child limit reinforcement and increased work search requirements. People with disabilities and long-term health conditions face a double whammy of stricter PIP assessments and tougher work capability criteria. and those in high-cost housing areas will feel the housing payment changes most acutely. Have you thought about how these combined changes might affect your specific situation? Because it's the cumulative impact that will cause the most hardship for many. Someone with a disability who also has 3 children and lives in an expensive housing area could see their total support reduced by thousands of pounds annually when all 5 changes are factored in. These 5 changes to universal credit and PIP represent the most significant shake-up to the benefit system in years. Understanding exactly how they'll affect your specific situation is crucial to maintaining your financial stability in the coming months. The reforms aren't just about cutting costs, they represent a fundamental shift in how the welfare system operates and who it's designed to support. Are you ready for this new reality? Because preparation now could mean the difference between managing and falling into serious hardship. Remember that you're not alone in navigating these changes. Millions of others are in the same situation, and there are resources available to help. The key is to be proactive, not reactive. Don't wait until your payments are cut to start making plans. If you found this information helpful, please hit that like button and share this video with anyone who might be affected by these changes. Subscribe for weekly updates on benefit changes and practical advice on navigating the system. In my next video, I'll be covering specific strategies to help you prepare for these changes and maximize your entitlements, so make sure you don't miss it. I'm also planning a special Q&A session where I'll answer your most pressing questions about these reforms, so leave your questions in the comments below. And if you've already been affected by any of these changes, share your experience. Your insight could help others prepare. Thanks for watching, and remember, staying informed is your best defense against benefit cuts. Together, we can navigate these challenging times and ensure that everyone gets the support they're entitled to.